For millennia, the Calarian Dominion and Zephyrian Empire had waged an endless, brutal war across the stars. Their colossal fleets, bristling with advanced technologies, clashed in cataclysmic battles that shook entire solar systems. Trillions perished in the relentless conflict, yet neither side could gain a decisive advantage. That is, until the unexpected arrival of a new player, humanity. Emerging from their isolated homeworld, the humans were a relative newcomer to the galactic stage, their presence previously unknown to the ancient alien empires. The Calarians and Zephyrians, consumed by their own conflict, had paid little attention to the distant blue planet and its primitive inhabitants. But that was all about to change. The first contact between humanity and the alien powers occurred when a small Calarian reconnaissance fleet stumbled upon a human colony world, its bustling cities and industrious population, a stark contrast to the desolate, war-ravaged planets the Calarians were accustomed to. Intrigued, the Calarian commander ordered his ships to initiate first contact protocols, hoping to assess the humans' technological and military capabilities. However, the encounter quickly turned violent when the Calarian ships opened fire, intent on subjugating the colony and adding its resources to the Dominion's war effort. The humans, caught off guard but not unprepared, retaliated with a ferocity that stunned the alien invaders. Their defense platforms and nimble fighter craft unleashed a barrage of energy beams and missiles, overwhelming the Calarian vessels with their precision and potency. Forced to retreat, the battered Calarian fleet limped back to their staging area, their commander shaken by the unexpected tenacity of the humans. Reports of the encounter quickly reached the Calarian High Command, who were equally perplexed and unsettled by this new development. They immediately dispatched a larger fleet to investigate further, determined to uncover the source of humanity's military prowess. Meanwhile, the news of the Calarian incursion had also reached the Zephyrian Empire, whose own scouts and outposts had been keeping a close eye on the human homeworld. Sensing an opportunity to gain an advantage over their ancient rivals, the Zephyrian leadership decided to launch a preemptive strike, hoping to subjugate humanity before the Calarians could consolidate their forces. As the Zephyrian fleet made its way towards the human colonies, the stage was set for a direct confrontation between the three galactic powers. The outcome of this clash would not only determine the fate of humanity, but also shift the delicate balance of power that had defined the Calarian-Zephyrian conflict for millennia. The very future of the cosmos hung in the balance. As the Zephyrian fleet surged towards the human colonies, the Calarian Dominion scrambled to regroup and reinforce their own forces in the region. Neither empire could afford to allow the other to gain a foothold among the humans, as that would tip the delicate balance of power that had defined their conflict for millennia. The humans, caught between the advancing alien armadas, knew they had to act quickly. Their leaders convened emergency strategy sessions, drawing upon the collective knowledge and resources of their most brilliant military tacticians and scientific minds. They understood that the survival of their species hung in the balance. When the Zephyrian vanguard arrived at the first human colony, they were met with a surprising and unwelcome sight. Instead of the easy conquest they had anticipated, the Zephyrian ships were greeted by a well-coordinated defense, their flanks suddenly under assault from a combination of orbital platforms, atmospheric fighter craft, and precision-guided missile barrages. The Zephyrian commander, caught off guard by the ferocity of the human response, ordered his fleet to fall back and regroup. But as they did so, they were ambushed by the Calarian reinforcements that had arrived from the opposite direction. The two alien armadas now engaged in a three-way clash for dominance. The battle that ensued was a chaotic display of firepower and tactical maneuvering, with the humans leveraging their intimate knowledge of the local terrain and their ability to rapidly coordinate their forces, while the Calarian and Zephyrian ships outmatched the human vessels in terms of raw firepower and shielding. The humans' agility, precision, and willingness to take risks allowed them to inflict disproportionate damage on their foes. Time and again, human fighter wings would dart through the alien formations, targeting critical systems and supply lines, while ground-based laser batteries and missile silos rained destruction upon the invading fleets. The Calarians and Zephyrians, unused to such tenacious resistance, found themselves struggling to adapt to the humans' unconventional tactics. As the battle raged on, the human commanders realized they could not hold out indefinitely against the combined might of the two alien empires. They needed to find a way to turn the tables and gain a decisive advantage. Seizing upon a crucial weakness in the Calarian and Zephyrian command structures, the humans orchestrated a bold plan that would test the limits of their technological prowess and their crew's bravery. In a daring maneuver, a small fleet of human ships equipped with the latest in stealth and electronic warfare systems slipped past the alien lines, making a direct assault on the Calarian and Zephyrian flagships. The ensuing chaos, as the alien commanders struggled to regain control of their forces, allowed the human main fleet to launch a devastating counterattack, inflicting heavy losses on the disorganized invaders. Forced to retreat, the Calarian and Zephyrian fleets withdrew, nursing their wounds and nursing their wounded pride. The humans, battered but unbowed, had proven their mettle against the galactic titans, earning the respect and attention of both empires. The stage was now set for a prolonged and increasingly complex struggle, one that would shape the future of the cosmos. As the smoke cleared from the initial clash between humanity, the Calarian Dominion, and the Zephyrian Empire, the alien leaders found themselves faced with a stark and unsettling reality. The humans were no mere primitives to be easily conquered. In fact, the tenacity and ingenuity they had displayed on the battlefield had shaken the very foundations of the ancient interstellar powers. Convening emergency strategy sessions, the Calarian and Zephyrian high commands pored over the intelligence gathered from the recent engagements. They studied the humans' tactics, analyzed the capabilities of their ships and weapons, and worked tirelessly to uncover any weaknesses they could exploit. The Calarians, with their renowned prowess in logistics and resource management, began to redirect vast swathes of their industrial capacity towards developing countermeasures against the human forces. They tasked their brightest scientific minds with designing new technologies that could nullify the humans' advantages, from advanced point defense systems to specialized anti-fighter munitions. Meanwhile, the Zephyrians, renowned for their warrior culture and strategic acumen, shifted their focus towards refining their combat doctrines and honing the skills of their most elite starfighter pilots. They understood that brute force alone would not be enough to overcome the humans' dynamic and adaptable approach to warfare. As the two empires worked to bolster their forces, tensions began to rise between them once more. Both sides realized that the arrival of humanity had upset the delicate balance of power that had defined their conflict for centuries. The prospect of the humans aligning with one empire or the other was a frightening one, as it could tip the scales irrevocably. Sensing an opportunity to gain an advantage, the Calarian and Zephyrian leaders made a decision that would shock the galaxy. They would set aside their differences and forge an unprecedented alliance. Pooling their resources and knowledge, they designated this newfound coalition the Black Armada, a name that would soon strike fear into the hearts of humanity and its allies. The Black Armada's first order of business was to launch a series of coordinated strikes against the human colonies, targeting their industrial and military infrastructure with surgical precision. The Calarian and Zephyrian forces, working in tandem, sought to overwhelm the humans' defenses and demonstrate the futility of their resistance. However, the humans proved to be a resilient and adaptable foe. They quickly reorganized their forces, leveraging their ability to rapidly communicate and coordinate across vast distances to mount a robust defense. Time and again, the Black Armada's advances were met with fierce counterattacks, the human commanders demonstrating a masterful understanding of the terrain and a willingness to take calculated risks. As the conflict dragged on, the Calarian and Zephyrian leaders grew increasingly frustrated. Their initial assessment of the humans as primitives had been proven woefully inaccurate, and they found themselves struggling to gain a decisive advantage. The realization dawned that they were facing a foe unlike any they had encountered before, one driven by an unbreakable spirit and a fierce determination to defend their homeworld and their way of life. The stage was now set for an epic confrontation that would define the fate of the galaxy. The Black Armada, forged in the crucible of the ancient rivalry, now faced a new and formidable adversary in the form of humanity. The outcome of this clash would not only determine the future of the human race, but also the delicate balance of power that had shaped the cosmos for millennia. As the Black Armada's relentless attacks wore down the human defenses, the leaders of Earth found themselves at a crossroads. They knew that they could not withstand the combined might of the Calarian Dominion and Zephyrian Empire indefinitely, no matter how fiercely their people fought. Convening a series of emergency strategy sessions, the human commanders debated their options. Some advocated for a desperate all-out assault, a final gambit to cripple the Black Armada's forces before their homeworld was overrun. Others argued for a more cautious approach, seeking to buy time and gather allies to bolster their defenses. In the end, it was the voice of reason that prevailed. The humans realized that to have any hope of survival, they would need to forge strategic alliances with other alien civilizations who had also felt the sting of Calarian and Zephyrian aggression over the centuries. Reaching out to these potential partners, the human envoys painted a stark picture of the impending danger. They spoke of the Black Armada's relentless advance, the devastation it had already wrought, and the existential threat it posed not just to Earth, but to the entire galactic order. To the humans' great relief, their pleas did not fall on deaf ears. Across the stars, other alien powers, some longtime rivals of the Calarians and Zephyrians, others simply weary of the endless cycle of conflict, began to heed the call. Sensing an opportunity to finally turn the tables on their ancient oppressors, they pledged their support to the growing human-led alliance. As the disparate fleets and armies coalesced, the human commanders set to work forging a unified strategy. Combining the unique strengths and capabilities of their new allies, they devised a bold plan to confront the Black Armada head-on, seeking to disrupt its operations and sow discord within the Calarian and Zephyrian ranks. The initial skirmishes were fierce, with the Black Armada's superior numbers and firepower pushing the human-led alliance to the brink. But the humans' mastery of maneuver warfare, coupled with the specialized skills of their newfound allies, allowed them to gain crucial ground. Time and again, they outmaneuvered the lumbering Calarian and Zephyrian behemoths, targeting critical supply lines and communication hubs. The Calarian and Zephyrian leaders, accustomed to the linear tactics of their centuries-old conflict, found themselves increasingly frustrated by the unpredictable and dynamic nature of the human-led alliance. Their attempts to regain the initiative were met with clever countermoves, as the humans and their allies exploited every weakness in the Black Armada's defenses. Sensing that the tide was turning, the Calarian and Zephyrian commanders convened a secret summit, their pride and animosity temporarily set aside. They knew that if they were to emerge victorious, they would need to reevaluate their entire strategic approach. The arrival of humanity had irrevocably changed the dynamics of the galactic power struggle, and the Black Armada would need to adapt if it hoped to prevail. As the two ancient rivals huddled in whispered conference, the human-led alliance continued to press its advantage, drawing ever closer to the heart of the Black Armada's territory. The stage was set for a cataclysmic confrontation that would determine the fate of the cosmos, a clash that would either cement humanity's newfound status as a galactic power or consign them to oblivion. As the human-led alliance continued to gain ground against the Black Armada, the Calarian and Zephyrian commanders knew they needed to take drastic action if they hoped to turn the tide of the conflict. Convening a secret summit, the rivals set aside their centuries-old animosity and began to devise a new strategy. Acknowledging that their traditional tactics were no longer sufficient to counter the dynamic and adaptable human-led forces, the Calarian and Zephyrian leaders realized they would need to pool their resources and knowledge. Only by working in close coordination could they hope to overcome this newfound adversary that had so thoroughly disrupted the balance of power in the galaxy. The resulting plan was bold and ambitious, a complete overhaul of their military doctrine, and the forging of an unprecedented alliance. They would combine their fleets and armies under a unified command structure, pooling their most advanced technologies and their most skilled commanders. This new entity, christened the Black Armada, would be a formidable force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. As the Calarians and Zephyrians mobilized their forces and began to coordinate their operations, the human-led alliance watched with growing concern. They understood that the creation of the Black Armada represented a grave threat, one that could potentially overwhelm their defenses and leave their homeworld vulnerable to conquest. Redoubling their efforts, the human commanders reached out to their newfound allies, urging them to contribute more resources and personnel to the growing coalition. They knew that only by presenting a united front could they hope to withstand the onslaught of the Black Armada. One by one, the other alien civilizations that had suffered under the Calarian and Zephyrian yoke answered the call. Longtime rivals, such as the Exetarian Collective and the Vlorian Dominion, put aside their differences and pledged their support to the human-led alliance. Even the reclusive and isolationist Andorian Empire, sensing an opportunity to upset the galactic order, joined the growing ranks. As the fleets and armies of these disparate powers converged, the human commanders set to work forging a cohesive strategy. They knew that the key to their success would lie in their ability to coordinate the unique strengths and capabilities of their diverse allies, leveraging each one's specialized skills and technologies to overcome the sheer numerical superiority of the Black Armada. The initial skirmishes between the two forces were fierce and chaotic, with both sides struggling to gain the upper hand. The Calarians and Zephyrians, accustomed to the linear tactics of their centuries-old conflict, found themselves increasingly bewildered by the unpredictable and dynamic nature of the human-led alliance. But the humans and their allies were not content to merely hold their ground. Sensing an opportunity to disrupt the Black Armada's operations, they launched a series of bold and coordinated strikes, targeting the Calarian and Zephyrian supply lines and communication networks. The resulting chaos sowed discord within the ranks of the once dominant alien empires, as their commanders struggled to maintain control of their forces. As the battle raged on, the human-led alliance continued to press their advantage, pushing ever closer to the heart of the Black Armada's territory. The stage was set for a cataclysmic confrontation that would determine the fate of the galaxy, a clash that would either cement humanity's newfound status as a galactic power or consign them and their allies to oblivion. The epic showdown between the human-led alliance and the Black Armada unfolded across the vast expanse of space, a dizzying display of firepower and maneuver that shook the very foundations of the galaxy. Both sides had amassed their mightiest fleets, each one determined to emerge victorious from the cataclysmic confrontation. At the forefront of the human-led alliance were the hardy, nimble vessels of Earth's Armada, their crews battle-hardened from the previous skirmishes. Alongside them were the sleek, agile warships of the Exetarian Collective, their advanced sensor suites and electronic warfare capabilities providing crucial support. Interspersed among them were the hulking, heavily armored dreadnoughts of the Vlorian Dominion, their immense firepower capable of shattering even the Black Armada's most formidable vessels. The Black Armada, for its part, presented a daunting sight. The colossal flagships of the Calarian Dominion and Zephyrian Empire led the charge, their broadsides bristling with devastating particle beam cannons and antimatter missiles. Flanking them were the disciplined ranks of the Andorian Empire's battle cruisers, their crews trained to execute complex maneuvers with unparalleled precision. As the two mighty fleets closed the distance, the space between them became a maelstrom of energy and shrapnel. Missiles streaked through the void, their warheads detonating in brilliant bursts of light. Laser batteries blazed away, their coherent beams piercing even the strongest shields. The air crackled with the discharge of plasma cannons, their superheated bolts carving through armor like a hot knife through butter. Amid the chaos, the human pilots and their alien counterparts maneuvered their ships with a deftness that belied the sheer scale of the engagement. They weaved through the enemy formations, targeting critical systems and supply lines, their precise strikes disrupting the cohesion of the Black Armada's advance. The Calarian and Zephyrian commanders, once the undisputed masters of galactic warfare, found themselves increasingly unnerved by the humans' unconventional tactics. Time and again, their lumbering dreadnoughts and cruisers were outmaneuvered by the nimble, agile vessels of the human-led alliance, their broadsides unable to find their mark as the enemy darted and wove through the maelstrom. Sensing an opportunity to break the stalemate, the human commanders unleashed a series of devastating strikes, their fighters and bombers delivering precision-guided munitions that crippled the Black Armada's flagships. Chaos erupted within the alien ranks as their once-vaunted command and control systems collapsed under the relentless assault. Caught off guard by the ferocity of the human-led onslaught, the Calarian and Zephyrian forces struggled to regain their footing. Their attempts to regroup and mount a counterattack were met with a renewed wave of attacks, the human allied fleet pressing its advantage with a dogged determination that left the Black Armada's commanders reeling. As the battle raged on, the very fabric of the cosmos seemed to shudder under the weight of the cataclysmic clash. Entire solar systems were consumed by the devastation, their planets torn asunder by errant energy beams and the shockwaves of colliding capital ships. Yet, through it all, the human-led alliance refused to falter, their crews fighting with a ferocity born of a primal need to defend their homeworld and their way of life. They had come too far to surrender, and they would not rest until the Black Armada had been broken and the galaxy liberated from the yoke of the ancient alien empires. As the cataclysmic battle raged on, the human-led alliance continued to press their advantage, their ships and crews demonstrating an unparalleled level of skill and determination. For every advance made by the Black Armada, the humans fought back with a ferocity that left their alien adversaries reeling. The Calarian and Zephyrian commanders, once the undisputed masters of galactic warfare, found themselves increasingly perplexed by the humans' innovative tactics. Their lumbering dreadnoughts and cruisers, so effective in their centuries-old conflict, were outmaneuvered time and again by the nimble, agile vessels of the human-led forces. Sensing an opportunity to break the stalemate, the human commanders unleashed a devastating series of strikes, their fighters and bombers delivering precision-guided munitions that crippled the Black Armada's flagships. Chaos erupted within the alien ranks as their once-vaunted command and control systems collapsed under the relentless assault. Caught off guard by the ferocity of the human-led onslaught, the Calarian and Zephyrian forces struggled to regain their footing. Their attempts to regroup and mount a counterattack were met with a renewed wave of attacks, the human allied fleet pressing its advantage with a dogged determination that left the Black Armada's commanders reeling. Inspired by the unwavering courage and skill of their troops, the human leaders rallied their forces, devising new strategies to further disrupt the Black Armada's operations. They deployed highly trained infiltration teams to sabotage the Calarian and Zephyrian supply lines, crippling the flow of critical resources and reinforcements to the front lines. At the same time, the human commanders leveraged their intimate knowledge of the local star systems to set up a series of ambushes and choke points, funneling the Black Armada's forces into kill zones where the human-led alliance's superior maneuverability and firepower could be brought to bear. As the battle raged on, the Calarian and Zephyrian commanders grew increasingly desperate, their once formidable fleets battered and depleted. They attempted to regroup and consolidate their forces, but the human-led alliance refused to relent, pressing their advantage with a relentless series of strikes that left the Black Armada's command structure in disarray. Sensing that the tide had turned in their favor, the human leaders made the bold decision to push for a decisive confrontation, gambling that their forces could deliver a crippling blow to the heart of the Black Armada's defenses. They rallied their allies, coordinating a massive offensive that would test the limits of their technological prowess and the courage of their crews. As the two fleets clashed in a titanic struggle that shook the very fabric of the galaxy, the humans fought with a ferocity born of their determination to protect their homeworld and their way of life. They unleashed a devastating barrage of firepower, their ships and fighters darting through the maelstrom with a grace and precision that left the Calarian and Zephyrian commanders in awe. The Black Armada, once the scourge of the cosmos, found itself reeling under the relentless assault. Its once mighty flagships, the symbols of the Calarian and Zephyrian dominance, were crippled and shattered, their crews fighting a desperate battle for survival. In the chaos that followed, the human-led alliance seized the initiative, pressing their advantage and pushing deeper into the heart of the Black Armada's territory. The stage was now set for a climactic final confrontation that would determine the fate of the galaxy, a clash that would either cement humanity's newfound status as a galactic power or consign them and their allies to oblivion. In a climactic final confrontation, the human-led alliance and the remnants of the Black Armada clashed in a titanic struggle that shook the very fabric of the galaxy. The Calarians and Zephyrians, their alliance crumbling, fought with the fury of a cornered animal, their once vaunted tactics and technologies proving increasingly ineffective against the relentless onslaught of their human-led adversaries. The human commanders, sensing victory within their grasp, pressed their advantage with a tenacity that defied belief. They unleashed a devastating barrage of missiles, lasers, and plasma bolts, their ships and fighters darting through the maelstrom with a grace and precision that left the alien commanders in awe. The Calarian and Zephyrian flagships, the symbols of their ancient empire's dominance, were crippled and shattered, their crews fighting a desperate battle for survival. As the once mighty vessels succumbed to the human-led assault, the morale of the Black Armada's forces began to crumble, their disciplined ranks giving way to panic and disarray. Sensing the turning tide of the battle, the human commanders rallied their allies, coordinating a series of devastating flanking maneuvers that encircled the remaining Black Armada ships. The Calarians and Zephyrians, their forces in disarray, found themselves overwhelmed by the human-led alliance's relentless onslaught, their desperate attempts to break free only met with withering fire. In the chaos that followed, the human-led forces seized control of key strategic locations, their ground troops storming enemy-held installations and cutting off vital supply lines. The Calarian and Zephyrian commanders, their once formidable fleets reduced to shattered hulks, realized that their defeat was inevitable. As the dust settled, the human-led alliance emerged victorious, their flag flying high over the remains of the Black Armada. The galaxy, once dominated by the ancient alien empires, now bore witness to the rise of humanity as a formidable new power, one that would shape the course of the cosmos for generations to come. The Calarian and Zephyrian leaders, their pride and ambition shattered, were forced to confront a stark reality. Their centuries-old conflict had been decisively ended, not by their own actions, but by the unexpected emergence of a new galactic power. They had underestimated the humans, dismissing them as primitives, and in doing so, they had paved the way for their own downfall. In the aftermath of the battle, the human leaders reached out to the defeated Calarian and Zephyrian commanders, offering terms of surrender and the promise of a new era of cooperation and peace. Wary but pragmatic, the alien leaders accepted, recognizing that the balance of power had irrevocably shifted. As the human-led alliance set about the task of rebuilding the devastated regions and establishing a new galactic order, the Calarians and Zephyrians found themselves relegated to a secondary role, their once dominant position now supplanted by the rising power of humanity. It was a humbling realization, but one that also carried the promise of a future free from the endless cycle of conflict that had defined their relationship for millennia. The galaxy, once on the brink of total annihilation, now looked towards a new dawn, one in which humanity would play a central role in shaping the course of events. The age of the ancient alien empires had come to an end, and a new era, one defined by the resilience, innovation, and determination of the human race, had begun.